Hey, year six, and welcome to your IPC lesson this week. We're going to continue our learning about the Benin people, and it's going to be linked a little bit to our World Book Day and the fact that we're going to be looking at a story, and you're going to be creating part of that story. So the learning intention is to understand the creation story of the Benin people. Now, in our RE at the start of the year, we looked at some different creation stories. This one's what the Benin people believe their creation story was. And then at the end of it, you're going to do an activity based around it. So for starters, I'm going to read the story to you. I'll put the words on the screen for if you want to read along with it. Here we go. So it's called the Benin West African Creation Story. Right. So in the beginning, Osanabua, the supreme god, decided something was lacking in the world. He summoned his 4 sons and asked them to choose a gift each. After some consideration, the first son chose wealth, the second chose wisdom, and the third chose spiritual energy. The fourth hesitated. He still couldn't decide what to ask for. A toucan flew over his shoulder and told him to ask for a snail shell. This made no sense, but in the absence of a better idea, he asked anyway. His brothers laughed heartily. What use is a snail shell compared to wealth? Their eldest son mocked. Ignore your brothers. That was a wise choice, murmured Osanabua to his youngest son. I wonder why he needs a snail shell. Osanabua sent his sons down to the world in a canoe. There was no land, only water, and a single tree standing proud above the waves. At the top of the tree, the youngest son noticed the toucan sitting and watching. The 4 brothers drifted in the canoe, pushed along by the waves created by the wind. The water stretched out as far as the eye could see. When the waves dropped and the canoe settled, the youngest son took out his snail shell. There's the toucan in the tree. He traced the patterns with his fingers and turned it round in his hand. As he turned it over, there was a tremendous explosion from beneath the water that forced huge amounts of sand up from the bottom. The 4 brothers stared open-mouthed as the fire settled all around them. The explosion had caused the 4 elements of creation, Amen, water, Aziza, air, Aaron, fire, and Oto, earth, to be in place. The brothers stayed in the canoe. They did not know what land was and didn't want to be the first to test it out. A chameleon was sent to test how firm the land was. The chameleon cautiously stepped onto the land, and he was unsure, moving his legs slowly and walking with hesitation. This is why, to this day, the chameleon still walks in this manner. Ah, it does actually. A chameleon plods its legs slowly, doesn't it? Interesting. Due to the physical nature of the gift the youngest son had chosen, he was able to take a physical form to be on earth. The other sons remained as spirits without human form. The oldest became Olokun, god of the waters. The youngest son stepped onto the land tentatively at first, then more confidently, stamping his feet, running, spinning, and dancing with a big grin on his face. He called himself Idu, meaning the first human on earth. Idu set out to explore his new territory. He discovered many plants, birds, and animals, all in a landscape that seemed to go on forever. Eventually, he became tired and settled under a tree to sleep. While Idu was asleep, Osanabua came down from heaven on a gold chain to check everything was as it should be. He created the sun and the moon to control day and night and the seasons. When Idu woke up, he realized he was in the presence of his father, Osanabua, and got to his knees to thank him for the incredible gift of earth. Are you happy here then? Osanabua asked Idu. So there he is coming down to create the sun and the moon. Incredibly happy, father, Idu replied, and then added quietly, but I am very hungry. What can I eat? Osanabua told Idu to stretch his hand up above his head and pluck whatever he needed from the sky, which would draw closer. Aidu did as he was told, and in his hand he found a juicy mango, which he devoured with pleasure. Osanabua warned him only to take what he needed and no more. Is there anything else you need? Osanabua asked. I am lonely. My brothers are spirits and not here with me, Aidu said. You are spirit too. Learn how to find wisdom, and this will teach you how to use your physical and spiritual sides to cultivate wealth as well as spiritual energy, and you will have all the gifts your brothers possess. Sonabua told Aidu to pick up 2 handfuls of sand from the ground and hold them out in front of him. With these 2 handfuls of sand, Sonabua created a woman so Aidu could have company as well as children. Aidu and the woman smiled at each other joyfully and hugged. Seeing all was well, Osanabua turned to go. One final question, Father, called Aidu. What if I need your help? How do we reach you? All you need to do is to climb Aluboda Hill. At the top of the hill you will find Ahi, your spiritual double in heaven. He will bring you to me, replied Osanabua. At this he climbed back up the golden chain and pulled it up behind him. Life on earth was good. Aidu and his wife, Etagoe, had many children, and as years went by, generations of their family spread out around the land. Thousands of years passed happily until one day, greedy Imos, a pregnant woman, took more food from the sky than she needed. Immediately there was a deafening explosion, and the sky started moving further away from Earth. The age of innocence was no more, and humans had to work hard to grow their own food, clearing forests and burning bushes to create land that could be dug and prepared for planting and harvesting. The changes on land created unbalance, which created droughts. Oh dear, naughty lady. As the land continued to be farmed, the soil became less nutritious and it was even harder to grow crops. Only the strongest and hardest working humans survived. Disease and death became common, and Owu, death, and Ogiowu, spirit of death, caused chaos. Humans who previously could live for 500 years were dying painful deaths at any time. Ogiowu owned the blood of all living things and would send to death anyone who disobeyed Osanabua. The idyllic life experienced by the first humans was over. Humans have to work with their food and earn their way to heaven ever since. So that's the story, and your task is to use the comic book strip template, which will be under this lesson on the year group page, or you can create your own comic strip template. I want you to create a comic strip version of that story, because obviously there are quite a few words there. I want you to pick out the key parts and create a comic strip showing it. So you'll need to maybe synthesize it down instead of including all of it. What I would do before you start is go back to the beginning of the video and just re-watch it again so you're familiar with the story, or watch each page and then create a comic book strip based on that. Might be a good way to do it. But you need to create your comic strips, and those can be sent in to your teacher if you want to. So create your comic strips based on the creation story of the Benin people. And we look forward to seeing some of them next week. Okay, bye-bye now. All done.